Today, at least 4 members of Congress will get briefed by the Department of Defense Inspector General. This is an enormous moment in the UFO disclosure process. The Department of Defense, or DoD Inspector General, serves as a watchdog for the Department of Defense, ensuring accountability, integrity, and proper conduct within its operations. Indeed, in July 2021, David Grusch provided classified UAP-related information to the Department of Defense Inspector General, Sean O'Donnell, alleging that relevant information was improperly withheld and concealed from Congress. It has been stated that UFO whistleblower David Grusch has already given 11 hours of testimony under oath to one of the Inspector Generals, and as I understand it, some congressional staffers were there too. But now, more personnel will be made aware of the allegations Grusch has made, consisting of classified information that's not public. That's really important, because much of his allegations consist of great detail that can't legally be made public. So, the 4 members of Congress will receive information potentially like direct witness lists, including compliant and hostile, as well as identifying UAP holding facilities and UAP exploitation program names. As you can imagine, that kind of information would be highly classified. But the October 26th briefing taking place today is just the start. Here's a tweet by Representative Tim Burchett that was published on October 19th. A SCIF has been booked for members of Congress to meet with the Inspectors General of the Department of Defense and the intelligence community to discuss UAPs in a classified setting. Dates for the meetings: DoD IG, October 26, ICIG, that's Intelligence Community Inspector General, November 16th. It's a start. Regarding who will be present during this briefing, Representative Anna Paulina Luna of Florida wrote on October 17th, "Just got word that we will be allowed to do the SCIF classified UAP briefing referencing Grusch with the IG, that's Inspector General, at Tim Burchett, at Jared Moskowitz, at Matt Gaetz." As far as I know, though, Representatives Jared Moskowitz, Tim Burchett, Anna Luna Paulina, as well as Representative Robert Garcia will be the ones present during the classified briefing today. I don't know if anyone else will be. There are plans to get David Grusch himself in a SCIF with members of Congress, but that hasn't been finalized yet. The briefing today is with the Inspector General of the Department of Defense.
I want to shift to a slightly different story. News Nation has learned that you and your colleagues will be able to get into the classified SCIF room to look at the UAP documents that you've been trying to get. You had this exchange with whistleblower David Grusch about getting into the SCIF back in July. Let's take a listen.
Can you give me the names and titles of the people with direct firsthand knowledge and access to some of this crash retrieval, some of these crash retrieval programs, and maybe which facilities, military bases the recovered material would be in?
I can't discuss that publicly, but I did provide that information both to the Intel committees and the Inspector General.
And we could get that in the SCIF if we were allowed to get in a SCIF with you. Would that be probably what you would think?
Sure, if you had the appropriate accesses, yeah.
So I want to reiterate some of that exchange between Representative Tim Burchett and David Grusch from the July 26 UFO hearing in which he testified under oath. And here we go. Burchett stated, "Could you give me the names and titles of the people with direct firsthand knowledge and access to some of these crash retrieval programs, and maybe which facilities, military bases that the recovered material would be in?" Grusch responded, "I can't discuss that publicly, but I did provide that information both to the intel communities and Inspector General." So we kind of covered that in the opening of this video. But there's a lot of people who haven't received this classified information. It can only be done within a SCIF, which is a secure facility appropriate for sharing classified information. And so hopefully Tim Burchett and the other representatives that are going to be at the briefing today, October 26, will be provided that very specific information that David Grusch has given under oath to the Inspector General and into Intel committees. I think it was only staffers, but still Intel committees. And then the host, Elizabeth Vargas, said, do you have the necessary accesses to receive that information? And Tim Burchett said, yes, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, from what I understand, there's a lot more than Grusch out there. Dave's a buddy of mine, but there's a lot more than Grusch out there that have this information, and we're going to get to it. And that's why people are very nervous, and they should be at the Pentagon, because they've been covering this thing up since 1947.
Yeah, Grusch is not the only one. As Grusch stated in an earlier clip where he was in the July 26 hearing, he's spoken with the people that are direct witnesses working on the recovered hardware allegedly of non-human origin. And from what I understand, some of these witnesses are going to go public, as Grusch has gone public. Elizondo recently said on Twitter that there are ongoing efforts that will materialize in early 2024 to mid-2024. I think he's referencing new first-hand whistleblowers coming forward, credentialed, and going public like Grusch went public.
Well, luckily, we're there, and we saw a post by Representative Luna that they got the scif, and I confirmed that with Representative Burchett. So they're going to be able to hear what David Grusch couldn't say in the congressional hearing. Are you optimistic about that?
I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, they've already run into substantial opposition from within their own party in the House. I mean, I suspect that there's the hand of some Pentagon folks and defense contractors who's been pressuring senior members of the House, the Republican leadership, to stop this, which is why there's been a problem in getting a scif approved, which is ridiculous. They should have had that as soon as they wanted it, asked for it.
So one thing that journalist George Knapp, that was just in that clip, along with Jeremy Corbell. But one thing George Knapp has stated many times is that the closer we get to the goodies that these aerospace companies have, allegedly recovered non-human craft and materials, the harder they're going to fight back, because they don't want to have any of their possessions under scrutiny or looked into by outside interests and stuff like that. It's not in their from their perspective, in their financial interests. And then, of course, the Pentagon doesn't want to have to admit to a multi-decade cover-up that includes campaigns to mislead the public about the true nature of UAP. So there's a lot of highly motivated interests within organizations such as the Department of Defense that don't want this ever to see the light of day. But I'm feeling optimistic because I feel like there's just too much momentum now from various angles, of which the DoD and other interests are not going to be able to hold this back. So at this point, the representatives have already been briefed in the scif, and obviously new information has emerged. So what I'm going to share with you is what photojournalist Jesse Varner took some film of, capturing the impression of Representative Luna and Moskowitz after they received the briefing.
Anything other than what we were told
Yeah, we were actually told that we don't have clearance to learn some certain things.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Again.
Is that in itself telling?
It could be. I don't want to read into it, but obviously, I think a lot of members were very frustrated.
You guys both look frustrated. You guys both seem frustrated.
The fact is that Congress should have oversight and the ability to look into and have access to these programs. And the fact is that we're being told that we don't have access to these programs, which defeats the purpose of what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. But your colleagues do have access if they're on armed services or anything.
No.
Oh, really? No members.
Well, they didn't tell us. They didn't tell us who. They wouldn't answer that.
So one of the weirdest parts about that exchange is when Laszlo asked the two representatives, no members have access, because they were complaining that they were not given access to the answers to the questions. And then Representative Moskowitz said, well, they didn't tell us. They didn't tell us who has access. They wouldn't answer that. That's pretty weird to me. Why could they not convey who has access to those questions within the Congress or otherwise? There's a lot of subtleties here that I don't have the answer to, and I'm not going to try to answer them, but maybe I'll delve into that in the future when the dust has settled. Joe Khalil wrote, full statement from DoD Inspector General about the SCIF briefing today. And here's the full statement. The Department of Defense Office of Inspector General is not responsible for determining the classification of the information in our oversight work, nor do we determine the level of security clearances for congressional leaders. The DoD OIG is committed to being as transparent and communicative as possible with our congressional leaders and welcome any further opportunity to discuss our body of work. Journalist Christopher Sharp commented on the DoD Inspector General's statement and said, sometimes it feels like the whole system has been designed to evade democratic oversight. Tiny Klaus wrote, if you needed any more proof Grusch is legit, the DoD IG denying Congress information on the programs he blew the whistle on should probably do it. Michael Colangelo wrote, the more non-answers we get from the U.S. government, the more I think they actually have non-human craft and biologics. Someone within the U.S. government with authority can get in front of a microphone and tell the world that David Grusch is a liar and there is nothing to see here, but they won't do that. They won't put it to bed because they know firsthand witnesses of these crash retrieval programs are going to start talking. This is a complaint that I've had for a long time. Why can't they get, if this is all just a big misunderstanding, a big mind virus, then why can't they get the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, and the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, to just do a press conference, right? And just say, hey, there's been a big misunderstanding. This is what's actually going on. The allegations made by Grusch are completely false. Well, they could do that. They have the manpower to figure that out. Anyone who says they don't is to me, not being intellectually honest. I think the reason they haven't done that is because there is a cover-up and enough of the U.S. government knows there's a cover-up. And so that's not a viable option, because it would come back to haunt them, obviously. And furthermore, as Michael Colangelo pointed out, there's been a lot of indications that firsthand whistleblowers are going to come forward. And so they would also contradict such a press conference that theoretically could be implemented but hasn't been. And these two previous comments that I shared with you just goes to show how the way the government is handling this fosters conspiratorial thinking. But the problem is, in this scenario, I think the reason it fosters conspiratorial thinking is because there actually is a conspiracy. The following would also complicate things if they were to do some kind of public overt press conference and deny the allegations. Congressman Robert Garcia, who attended this briefing in the SCIF, stated, "This morning I intended a classified briefing on UAPs. I have requested to our committee chair further public hearings on this important topic and am working on legislation to facilitate reporting and analysis. Transparency and public trust is very important. There will be more hearings." And let me say it right now. It seems likely to me that those hearings are not going to promote the idea that this is all one big misunderstanding. On the contrary, they're going to promote the idea that there's a UFO cover-up. Washington correspondent for News Nation, Joe Khalil, wrote, "Overall, consensus from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle on classified UFO UAP briefing, waste of time. The Defense Department Inspector General and team could reveal almost nothing or were not in the know on nearly all lawmaker questions, according to members in the room." Journalist Tim McMillan chimes in on this. He wrote, "The chair of the House Oversight Committee, Representative James Comer, has broad authority and can issue subpoenas. They've investigated numerous high-profile cases, including 9/11, CIA involvement at Abu Ghraib, the Iraq invasion, Obamacare, and even Major League Baseball. He continues. Representative Tim Burchett and Representative Luna, why are we still playing games and not pushing Representative James Comer to start having people called to the carpet? I'm going to end this video with a tweet I just made moments ago. It writes, the elephant in the room, those in official capacities handling the UAP topic don't want the public to realize some of this technology isn't human-made. So they shield themselves with national security claims to avoid this simple acknowledgement. They make everything classified that could provide insight into whether we're alone. This is why the U.S. government acts so bizarrely with this topic, in my opinion. Now, I know that Representative Burlinson, I'm botching and I'm really tired right now, but I know that Matt Laszlo got a quote from him about some kind of propulsion system, but I'm not sure right now whether that came from the SCIF briefing or not. So I really don't want to go into that further right now. I want to wait until the dust settles before I explore that further. But we'll just wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below. Or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.